Microphone.
Oh, thank you. First order of business, our roll call. Mr. Fournier?
Yeah.
Mr. Punchak?
Here.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Keene is not present. Mr. Menard?
Here.
And the chair is here. Next up, we have the minutes from the February 24th, 2022 meeting. I'll give you a moment to look those over. Any comments or questions? Any comments? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Everybody good? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passed. We'll accept the February 24th minutes as presented. Next up, planning board members need to disclose any potential conflicts related to matters before the board this evening. Any disclosure required? No, hearing none. Likewise, disclosure and notice, planning board members shall disclose any ex parte communications about any contested or material adjudicatory facts or opinions concerning the merits of any application before the board this evening. Hearing none, great. Okay. So, voting members, you're looking at them. Mr. Fournier, Mr. Punchak, Mr. Porter, Mr. Menard, and myself. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, I would like to make a motion to rearrange some of the items on the agenda this evening. So I'd like to make a motion to move items number 9, 10, and 11 to be items 7, 8, and 9, and then items 7 and 8 to be items 10 and 11.
So we're moving the item 9, 10, 11 to before the old Louisquisset Condos,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second.
Yeah, we have a second on that. Mr. Solicitor, does that require a roll call vote, or is that a? No, okay. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. So with that, we will go to the former item 9, now item 7. Minor subdivision, Old Smithfield Road. Assessor's Plat 17, Assessor's Lot 23, Muhammad Arif, the applicant, zoned rural estate agricultural. The applicant is requesting preliminary approval to divide one 6.95 acre lot into 2 new lots for development on an existing town road in an REA zoning district. Anything further on that, Mr. Carrillo?
No, it's a minor subdivision. I believe it was before the board for a pre-submission conference, and there were some stipulations that were requested, and I think they're in compliance with what was requested for pre-submission.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? We have this, is there the applicant here to present? Oh, by all means.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Norbert Ferry. I'm a professional land surveyor employed through National Land Surveyors Developers, Inc., and it's through my office that the plans and the survey and the information shown on the plans was submitted initially almost 2 years ago now for a pre-application to create then a 3-lot minor subdivision. Subsequently, since then, the zone has changed, so we've modified it and submitted the 2-lot minor subdivision as shown on the plan that the board members have. We're proposing to create 2 lots, all meeting the zoning, frontage area, setback requirements. Both lots have been submitted to wetlands, and as well as the septic system. Both lots have obtained approvals under Lot A being 1725-1774, and wetlands 21-0258, Lot B being 2125-1499, and wetlands permit number 210259.
Can you
It's
hold
a
on 1 second, please? Mr. Krill, do we have the schematic available online to display so everyone can see it?
I'm not sure. You have
Carl?
the, that's fine.
Yeah, that's it.
Nope.
Is it just not hyperlinked, like Old Smithfield Road?
No,
No.
would it be Old Smithfield Road, go back, and then down, right there, down, down, down. and
Keep
then-
going. Keep going.
Yeah, that. You can probably change these on that.
There's nothing below that?
Just amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Oh. So is that, we don't have it? Okay, sorry, if we did, I just wanted to get it up there, that's all.
Okay, well, again, it's kind of an awkward rectangular-shaped piece of property totaling frontage on Old Smithfield Road. In essence, we're creating it somewhat in half, creating the two lots. It's a total of 6.9598 acres. As I said previously, both lots will meet all the zoning requirements. There is no waiver requested. At the time of the pre-application meeting, the only thing that was of concern with the planning board at the time was the line of sight visibility for both driveways. We subsequently had Principi Engineering visit the site, and a copy of the letter should be in your package that indicates that we rather greatly exceed the minimum setback requirement. There was one recommendation that they made, and that would be 2 trees that are shown on Old Smithfield Road, and he requested and suggested that at the time of the construction of that particular home, as shown on Lot B, those 2 trees be cut down to enhance and make sure that the brush along that line of sight corridor be maintained so as to greatly enhance the line of sight visibility, even though we do meet the minimum standard with regards to that. 2 single-family homes, on-site wells, on-site septic systems, meeting all the state requirements as well as the town's requirements. So hopefully the board agrees with us and approves the preliminary approval this evening.
If there's no other questions, I'll take a motion to open up the public meeting.
Make a motion that we open the public meeting.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Those in favor? Aye. Okay. So the public meeting for this item is open now at 7:08. Anybody have any questions or comments you want to make on the project before us? Just step up, introduce yourself, and let us know what you're thinking. Not seeing a lot of, one at a time. Okay.
Don't push it, don't push it.
Motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public meeting.
Okay, second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Okay, but that's outside. So the public meeting is closed at 7:09. And then, Mr. Punchak, you have a question?
So more of a curiosity than anything, why did you go with pervious pavement for residential driveways?
The state of Rhode Island, as you may know, even though there aren't any wetlands in the immediate area of where the driveway is going, if you create a porous as compared to impervious, then you have to handle the drainage. You have to handle the drainage off the runoff of the roofs, and we decided to go along that line would be preferred.
All right. Anything else? So I guess we'll be looking for a motion. Okay.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendations of Mark and Bobby with our planning office recommendation, that the planning office recommend, or that we approve the preliminary plan with final approval to be through the administrative officer with the following stipulations. Number one is that the developer shall remove the 2 existing trees and maintain proper sight lines by performing and maintaining trimming and clearing of vegetation within the area indicated on the subdivision plan for record Lot B, as recommended in the Princip Engineering Site Distance Assessment Report. Number 2, that the RIDEM insignificant alteration permits be recorded in the town's land evidence records as required in stipulation number 6 of the Rhode Island DEM permit number 210258. And that number 3, that the final plan shall include a reference under general notes to the RIDEM insignificant alteration permit 210258 for record Lot A and the RIDEM preliminary determination application number 210259 for record Lot B.
Okay.
I'll second.
And we have a second for Mr. Fournier. Roll call vote on this. Mr. Fournier?
Yes.
Mr. Punchak?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much, and it's appreciated that you adjusted the schedule. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, an amendment to the town's zoning ordinance, section 13 amendments. The applicant is the North Smithfield Historical District Commission and Heritage Association. The zoning amendment is, as I said, to section 13, North Smithfield Historic District Commission and Heritage Association desires to amend zoning ordinance 13 amendments to meet the minimum notice requirements described in Rhode Island General Law 45-24-53, adoption, notice, and hearing requirements. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Since neither representative is here to discuss the potential zoning amendment, I would make a motion that we table this to our May 12th meeting.
okay. We have a motion to table it again, as both Mr. Key and Mr. Harris are not able to attend this evening.
Second.
Seconds, okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next item on the agenda, I'm sorry, what was the date on that again?
May 12th.
May 12th, thank you.
Mhm.
So next item, administrative subdivisions. Subdivision name Pound Hill Business Park, applicant Peter Sangermano. Hope I got that close to being right. Location 621 Pound Hill Road, Assessor's Plat 8, Assessor's Lots 299 and 300. Is there a description on this? Oh, that's right. Yep. Mr. Carrillo, can you give us a little background on that one?
So this was an administrative subdivision for the Beef Barn property and the property beside it, the Wild World of Indoor Sports. They originally had created a lot line in 2019, the one that is running north to south. They had removed that and created the one that's further down that says lot line to be eliminated. So basically what they did was undo what they did before. So they're just dividing the property where the new lot line is and removing the lot line at the bottom. So the Beef Barn property got much larger.
The new Beef Barn property.
The new
Right.
Beef Barn,
Okay.
yes, sorry.
Any questions or comments from the board on this? It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Okay. All right, we need to vote on this?
Mr. Chairman, under Rhode Island law, the planning department is supposed to inform the planning board whenever we record an administrative subdivision or an administrative act, so these are here for informational purposes for the board.
Okay.
They've been approved and recorded.
Oh, okay, great. I wasn't sure if it was already past tense. All right, thank you. Okay. Thanks. So with that, we go back to item 10, originally item 7. Major land development project for Old Louisquisset Condos, 30 Old Louisquisset Pike, Assessor's Plat 13, Assessor's Lots 111, 123, and 143. Applicant BB/WW Properties LLC, Zone Business Highway. The applicant is requesting preliminary approval to construct a 30-unit residential condominium, including 6 LMI units on 3 lots totaling 5.9 acres on an existing town road in a business highway zoning district. Just turn that to me. Is that you? Okay.
It is, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening, John Mancini on behalf of the owner and applicant with respect to the petition before you. The board may recall we were here for master plan. We did receive master plan, and we proceeded with master plan and the conditions as set forth in that decision, and went forth and got the necessary state approvals. So just a little quick background. The proposal consists of 5.9 acres. The proposed development is 30 units. Of the 30 units, 6 units will be low to moderate income. The site is serviced by public water and sewer, and the site is part of the overall special use permit, which was granted for Dowling Village as a planned unit development back in 2004, 2005. So we're proceeding under that special use permit in the BH zoning designation, which is business highway. The applicant, as I indicated, as I indicated, gone through to obtain state approvals and did obtain a DEM approval. Old Louisquisset Road is not a state highway, so we're not needed, or a physical alteration permit from our IDOT is not needed. Regardless, we did present a master plan. At master plan, we did present a traffic report, and we're prepared to give you the updates with respect to some additions to that traffic report. I have Bader Engineering with me tonight, who's going to testify to that, and DiPrete Engineering, which is going to testify as to the layout and go through the master plan conditions, as well as the suggestions, comments, recommendations by DEM concerning the RIPD's permit, and also some of the particular issues the board had at the last meeting, which was kind of trying to level this site out, and we've done that as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to DiPrete Engineering, unless the board has any questions of me, and then we'll go to traffic. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jason Clough, C-L-O-U-G-H. I'm with DiPrete Engineering, with offices at 2 Stafford Court in Cranston, Rhode Island. The development here that we have here is located off of Old Louisquisset Pike. It's located on the east side of Old Louisquisset Pike, west of Dowling Village, north of the Rockcliffe Farms condominium development. And it's just south of the southern entrance to Dowling Village and the CVS and Denny's that are there. With existing conditions, the site has a number of lots. They're Assessor's Plat 13, lots 111, 123, and 143. There are 2 abandoned dwellings on the property, and there previously was one more dwelling on one of the lots that had been previously developed. Running through a portion of the property is a Narragansett electric easement. Under proposed conditions, we have a single condominium building with 30 2-bedroom units. As John mentioned, we were here before with master plan. Basically, the plans at that point were pretty far along design-wise. We were pending with DEM for the revised design from the original master plan. So what you see here has some minor modifications. We coordinated with DEM on the limit of disturbance, and we have some buffering that's proposed at the rear of the building to the wetland areas, with some buffer markers that would be installed along the limit of disturbance at the rear of the building. basically, we got the one building, and then we have a parking field that's located out in what would be the front of the building. We have a total of, or the parking requirement is 1.5 spaces per unit, which would be 45 spaces for the 30 units. We are proposing a total of 61 parking spaces, and of those, 4 are accessible spaces. Stormwater is handled by stormwater BMPs, which include an underground infiltration basin, which is located in the parking lot, and there's also an above-ground infiltration pond, which handles runoff from the roof area, as well as a portion of the driveway entrance and parking lot as you come down towards Old Louisquisset Pike. As was mentioned previously, the site is serviced by public water, sewer. There will also be connections for electric, telecommunication, and natural gas. With master plan, one of the items that was discussed was connectivity to Dowling Village. We've shown a walking path location on the plan. If you go to sheet 8, there, back up a couple. There you go. So along the southern portion of the parking lot, there's a walking path location that would be indicated that would run up towards the Planet Fitness, and then there's also a connection point shown down to Old Louisquisset Pike. One of the other items that have been discussed was the lighting. So we've indicated that the lighting will be dark sky compliant. We did look at terracing the retaining wall, but just with the proximity, the grades that are present and the proximity to the property line and adjacent Narragansett electric easement poles, really wasn't feasible to do so, but we have proposed fencing along the entire length of the wall to prevent people from being able to access and protect from a fall hazard. I think that's all I have, unless there's any questions from the board.
I'm going to make a motion to open up the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion.
Before you do that, I have one more witness.
Oh, sorry about that.
Traffic.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Herman Peralta. I'm a senior traffic engineer and a registered professional engineer, office at 701 George Washington Highway in Lincoln, Rhode Island. So we had completed a traffic study for this small-scale residential development. We originally completed back in September 2020, and then based on the revision to the site plan, we had revised it back in August 2021. As part of the traffic study, we completed a couple of tasks. Number one, what we did is we looked at the physical roadway characteristics of Old Louisquisset Pike relating to safety and operations. We then obtained crash data from the local police department just to see if there's any safety issues within the project area. We then specifically investigated and evaluated the stopping site distances at the site driveway location along Old Louisquisset Pike, and also obtained speed data along the roadway. And then based on the data we collected, we try to make recommendations, if necessary, to provide safe and efficient access to the site. Relating to the safety, with the crashes, there was no reported crashes from the local police department along the roadway, Old Louisquisset Pike. And then the stopping site distance, the driveway location has more than sufficient stopping site distance based on the speed data that we collected. And it relates to operations. We anticipate that the proposed project will have minimal impact on the existing efficient operations on Old Louisquisset Pike, based on, number one, the low hourly volume that will be generated by the proposed small-scale residential development, and secondly, the low volume that's serviced along Old Louisquisset Pike. The only recommendation that we had was to investigate maybe the need for horizontal curb signs. As you know, Old Louisquisset Pike kind of loops around, so there is a horizontal curve. There is no sign for that, so that's something that we recommended. And from the planning department, I do agree that, maybe speed limit signs can be provided along the roadway, because existing there is no speed limit sign. And I can take any questions at this point.
Any questions from the board? No? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, at this time. Shall we try that again?
Yeah, I'll try. Anything else? Okay, just checking.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing.
And we have a second from Mr. Fournier. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is open at 7:27. Anyone with any comments or questions on this project? Any concerns? Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. We'll second. Those in favor? Aye. And we closed it at 7:27 as well. So, questions from the board for the applicant? Mr. Punchak?
Yeah, so I know we had talked, when you were just talking about traffic, the possibility of putting speed limit signs up, so I'm glad you mentioned that. We did also talk, I think, about the retaining wall and if it's possible to make it a little bit more attractive, seeing that the height of it's 20 feet in some areas, with maybe some like veneer stone or something like that. I know it's got 5 or 6 foot arborvitae's proposed to go in front of it on the low side, but, I think that looking at a 20-foot wall of concrete, you're gonna feel like you're kind of down, in a hole in that parking lot, so I think that would definitely be beneficial. And not that I know that this, I'm just wondering, in this traffic study, I just realized that you're using multifamily housing low-rise. Isn't this building like 5 or 6 stories tall?
No.
No.
It isn't?
Two,
No.
3 tops? 3.
3? Oh,
Yeah.
all right, I couldn't remember. I
Yeah,
thought this
no,
was
when you go
tall.
beyond 3, then it's steel, and it's,
Not to mention there's 35-foot limit and
yeah,
all that, yeah.
that's right.
All right, okay, that was,
And with regards to the retention walls, you'll see on the plans that it says to be designed by others,
mhm.
and so it is the anticipation of the developer.
But that never comes to us.
No, no.
So I want it to
Yeah.
be known to
Yeah, so-
whoever designs those that, hey,
And we-
listen.
Yeah, we don't have an opposition to that. I mean, there's so many different types of block that can be used, so we'll incorporate that.
Yeah. And just in terms of vegetation, I mean, one way is with, obviously you can plant things that grow up, but you can also plant ivies and stuff that would retain, just give it more of the green and natural look.
Yeah,
So-
but it's important to note, it's not gonna be those concrete cinder blocks.
Yeah, no, no.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
okay.
So, I remember that.
Right.
Yeah, and we had that discussion at Master Plan.
Great. And you raised the question of the speed limit signs. And this is maybe even a question for planning. Is it appropriate for a developer to put speed limit signs on, but I would think that's a DPW.
Yeah, it doesn't, they're not gonna put the signs up.
Okay.
They're gonna pay for the signs.
We're gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
so
So-
we're gonna,
so-
the town's gonna identify the speed, and we're gonna pay for the
Oh.
signs.
So I would request that the police department do a study and determine the appropriate speed limit. The town council will have to pass an ordinance, because there is actually no speed limit on that road.
Right.
It's undetermined. once the ordinance is passed, the developer has agreed, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
to pay the cost of the purchase and installation of the signs only. They
Right.
will be installed by the town.
Okay, great. Thank
They're
you.
actually gonna be hand-painted by Jason and DiPrete.
Yeah, it's a whole new,
Yeah.
get some new look to it,
Yeah.
you know? That's great. Okay. Anybody? Mr. Porter?
Yeah, one thing that confused me, and maybe I can rely on Mark and Bobby a little bit more for this, was the population of the building. It's listed that, you have 32 bedroom units, and that there's gonna be 62 residents in the building itself. So, to me, that confuses me a bit, because if there's families moving in, you'll have, the parents in one bedroom and a child in the other bedroom, so that would essentially add, or a in-law or another roommate or some sort. So that almost bumps you up to, 90 residents in the complex. So I was confused looking at the, which one was it? The fiscal impact study, saying that there could potentially only be 2 students coming out of this, and then the other 60 are all adults. So and it seems like, you can kind of pick and choose your data to figure out what the population is gonna be based on whatever various complexes are throughout the state, and you can kind of pick and choose to work those in your advantage. So I'm just wondering if because I know, like, in architecture, we have we do a code study, and it says, X amount of people per living unit for residential projects. So I'm trying to figure out how can we accurately make sure that you have a correct number of people, because, if we have, let's see, and I'm gonna go back to tie parking into this, there's 61 parking spots, so if there's 62 people and two are kids, that leaves like 1 guest spot if you have someone visiting from out of town when you're at full occupancy. So
And-
I'm just confused, and I'm hoping that maybe there's some clarification that either party could provide for me here, just so I understand how can we really make sure that we have the accurate number of students coming into this. If we have 6 LMI units, that's gonna be attractive for young upcoming families, so then there could be potentially 6 or 12 students, depending on
Or-
how many people,
Yeah.
they
could put-
wanna put into
I mean,
those
yeah,
units.
elementary
So-
students, you
Yeah.
could have bunk beds in the room and, that
Right,
kind of
so,
thing.
so that's a good point. But our proposal is simply divided or described as follows. It's 30 units with 2 bedrooms, so each unit has 2 bedrooms. And the calculation for parking is determined based on the code and based on the units and not the bedrooms. And so your scenario is plausible, where you have, 30 units, and you have a parent in 1 bedroom and 2 adult teenage drivers in another bedroom for every single unit. And that would be maxed out, and you'd have the total usage of the parking space with 1 guest unit left over. That's worst-case scenario. And the but the fiscal impact study reviews and analyzes units of this size, and they're smaller units, so they're not conducive for a family of 4 or a family of 5. They're more conducive for either startups, professionals, or empty nesters. That's usually been the play for 2 units, and you can see that in your own data and analysis within the town. The low and moderate income units, those are ones that would run the potential of having more occupancy, because they're affordable. They're at a rate that is probably gonna be enticing for a family who wants to take advantage of the North Smithfield school system, who wants to take advantage of the proximity to the amenities at Dowling Village, and can't afford to buy a single-family house in North Smithfield. So these 6 units will be attractive to those. But again, they're gonna be, the occupancy is gonna be dictated by the size of the units. And the size is gonna be the size of your kitchen, the size of your bath. They all have 1 bath. So that, again, is gonna drive the occupancy on these units.
Okay.
But as far as total occupancy and your ordinance doesn't have anything specific that I can recall that limits the amount of occupants in one space. So in other words, other cities and towns will have an ordinance to say you can't have more than 4 or 3 unrelated persons in one dwelling, so.
Right.
So here, it's simply 30 units, 2 bedrooms per unit, with the sizes dictated in one building, parking associated with it based on the code.
Yes.
Yes.
Just so the record's clear, I just confirmed, you should be separating the issues. This project is in complete compliance with the code as to parking. There's no relief being.
Right.
So that issue is off the table. The question about the fiscal analysis, although Mr. Lombardo is not here, just as a matter of practice, these fiscal analyses are based upon not the parking, it's based upon these kind of apartment-type condominium units normally do not attract families. That's why they're, they just don't, as a general, maybe the 6 might, but generally speaking, they don't. So they tend to be pretty accurate. You might be surprised how accurate they are, but I understand your concern. I just wanted you to separate the 2 issues.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, when I hear that, 62 residents and then 61 parking spots, someone's getting the shaft, essentially. But yes, they are 2 completely separate issues. And then one thing that I recall from our last hearing, we talked about making sure that we had some sort of easement or discussion from National Grid saying that it was allowed for plantings to be put within their easement. Has that been?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, we've been in discussions with National Grid, and National Grid's position is come back with an approval, then we know that, you have a legal right to do what you're doing, and then we'll operate. But there's no prohibition under the easement that
Sure.
prohibits us from doing it, and there's been no objection from National Grid in respect to that.
Okay, great. And then I'm going to give you a kind of a compliment sandwich here. Your plans say that they need to be printed in color. We've gotten them all in black and white. So what we're seeing on the screen is vastly different. It was kind of hard reading them over the weekend with the black and white and going back and forth between the color and everything. However, I do want to thank you for the light readings for the dark sky compliant for the parking lot. That's very helpful to have and review that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
That's it?
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Ready for a vote? Ready for a motion? Mr. Carrillo, you're looking for a vote on this? Right.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. This is here for preliminary approval.
Right.
So we would definitely need a motion in a vote,
Right.
roll call vote, please.
And if I may add, Mr. Chairman, we're also asking for administrative to be done final if possible, or final to be done administratively.
Okay. Separate issue. Okay. But hang on. Okay. Looking for a motion on the preliminary approval.
I'll make the motion on the preliminary approval with the planning department's recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to read each recommendation?
Please.
The planning office recommends to approve the preliminary plan with the following stipulations: that the developer shall pay for the purchase and installation of 2 to 3 speed limit signs for Old Louisquisset Road upon the town determining the appropriate speed limit. Number 2, that the developer shall receive formal written approval from National Grid approving alteration of the easement area to allow regrading and construction and installation of a retaining wall, parking lot, associated drainage, lighting, and other related appurtenances. And number 3, that the developer shall comply with the requirements for establishing low and moderate income LMI housing, including but not limited providing a minimum 20% or a minimum of 6 residential units of LMI housing in full compliance with the North Smithfield Code of Ordinances, Article 3, Municipal Subsidy Program for Low and Moderate Income Housing, and RIGL 45-53, the Rhode Island Low and Moderate Income Housing Act, as a condition of final approval. And I guess number 4, that it can be approved, final step administratively. Is that a separate,
That's actually a separate motion, right?
is that a separate motion?
Be a condition.
Oh,
And that could be another,
okay. Okay.
so the final approval by administratively.
I-
And,
Yeah.
number 5,
I-
retaining wall
Appearance.
appearances.
I have a question on that. Stipulations are things that the planning department, the planning board sort of put on the responsibility of the applicant. Doing an administrative, having administrative approval for the final is not something that we put, so, you know, I mean, that's, and we have to first just agree to that, so I don't think it'd be appropriate to put it in the.
Okay, we can make
Okay.
That's a fine point.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll withdraw the final
Right.
approval, but administratively, we'll leave that for a separate motion.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, and then the other stipulation would be the retaining wall appearance, that there'll be some kind of consideration when they're designing their retaining wall
Yeah, for vegetation.
for vegetation.
Yep. Okay. So with that, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second.
Could we have discussion for one more?
We can have
one more minute?
discussion.
The traffic engineer stated that we should probably install a horizontal curve sign, is that correct? So I would also add that, to include that with the speed limit signs, to be speed limit signs and the horizontal curve signage.
Okay. Ms. Mincy? Okay, great. Okay. So we're adding that to that stipulation?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Fournier?
Yes.
Mr. Punchak?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay.
Do we need another motion?
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that the final approval can be done administratively.
Okay, we have a motion for that. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? No? Roll call vote. Mr. Fournier?
Yes.
Mr. Punchak?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
And Mr. Menard?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda. Major land development, Pawnham Solar, 0 and 80 Iron Mine Hill Road. Iron Mine Road, it says, it's Iron Mine Hill Road, correct? Thank you. Assessor's Plat 16, Assessor's Lots 18 and 19, applicant Islander Solar, and zoning is rural agriculture. The applicant is requesting master plan approval to establish a 2.8 megawatt ground-mounted photovoltaic solar facility and associated equipment in a rural agricultural zoning district. The proposed development is located on a 22-acre landlocked parcel with proposed access via driveway easement through an abutting, non-conforming residential property with less than the required frontage located at Iron Mine Hill Road, zoned rural agricultural. Anything further you want to add to that? No?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We'll hear from the applicant.
Thomas Carlotto, attorney Darrow Everett, here on behalf of the applicant. We also have our engineer here today, Jason Gold, and client representative, Manny Ahad. I would this time like to call up the engineer who can give a presentation and answer most of your questions, I think, relative to the project, hopefully.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jason Gold. I'm a professional civil engineer with ESS Group. We were in front of this board last in August of 2021, August 2020, with the pre-application meeting. So We're back here presenting the master plan. Just as a reminder of the property, it's a 22-acre vacant wooded lot off of Iron Mine Hill Road. It doesn't have any frontage, so it's accessed through Lot 18, which does have access off Iron Mine Hill Road. It's zoned RA, Rural Agricultural, and the surrounding lots are primarily wooded. Perfect. The nearest residence is on Iron Mine Hill Road, which is over 400 feet away. So since we were here last time, we've advanced the design quite a bit, and this is, as you'll see, and if you've seen in the plans, it's a lot more than normally it would be for a master plan. Originally, we prepared this, we thought it was going to be a preliminary plan application, so the design has been taken quite a bit further. We incorporated the recommendations you provided us back in August. So some of those are the fenced area. We reduced that from 11.5 acres to 6 acres per the ordinance. So that shrunk that fence up quite a bit. It's now 27% of the lot, which is below the 30% threshold. The array also shrunk. The concept we presented last time was 6.9 acres. It's now 5.5 acres. And that reduced the size of the array as well from about 3 acres to about 2.8 3 megawatts to about 2.8 megawatts. One of the main things that you had asked for was to shift the array off of the steeper slopes. And that was part of the reason for everything shrinking as well. So we shifted it up to the northeast, got it off those steep slopes. We pulled the fence in closer to the array, left the basins outside of the array, outside of the fence. Those are all recommendations you had made last time. Pushing it north to get it out of the steep slopes did encroach on the 100-foot solar setback, and that was a trade-off you had recommended last time, was that it's better to be within that 100-foot setback than to be developing on those steep slopes. So we've taken care of that. Also, just as far as advancing the design, the road's been designed. That road's actually been submitted and permitted by Rhode Island DEM just for the road. And the remainder of the site is under Rhode Island DEM review now. So they permitted the road, we did it separately, and the rest of the array has been submitted to Rhode Island DEM, they're reviewing it now. We maintain the 50-foot vegetated buffer, the existing woods around the outside of the property. That hasn't changed from last time. The stormwater design's been progressed, there's now 3 stormwater basins. You can see them on there. If you go to page 7, you'll be able to see them a little bit better. It's a close-up view. There you go. So one up, there we go. So there's 3 basins, 3 stormwater basins that are handling the stormwater as well as a dry swale along the road, and those provides stormwater attenuation and water quality treatment. The limits of disturbance have been shifted since we tightened everything up. We were able to move those. It's over 200 feet from the wetlands now. The poles haven't changed much since the concept plan. Those are still, the final location number of poles is going to be dependent on National Grid's design. Right now we're showing 13 poles. 6 are on this lot, the development lot, and the rest are to get it to the street. All the electric lines, as before, will be underground within the array up until the poles. And then once you get to the poles, grid requires them to be overhead. Note, I might have mentioned this last time, we did the survey of trees greater than 20 inches. DBH, none of those are within the LOD. So we only found 3, they're all well outside the LOD, so those will not be removed. We're seeking 2 variances that we mentioned last time. One is for the 5.7.5G requires a planted evergreen buffer. We have existing woods, so our proposal is to maintain the 50-foot existing woods instead of cutting down trees to plant a vegetated buffer. The only exception to that 50-foot, it's 50 feet everywhere. You can see next to the basins, right over here and a little bit over there, it's a little less than 50 feet, and that's really just to maintain some separation distance from the basins. You don't really want wooded vegetation close to a basin. That's actually required by the Rhode Island DM stormwater rules. And then the second variance would be that 100-foot array setback to the north, which again we shifted that north to avoid those steep slopes. It's now 60 feet, a 60-foot separation between the panels and that northern property line. We completed some other assessments, which, unless you have questions, I won't go over them today. I'll leave them for the preliminary plan meeting, but we have done a noise impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, the carbon sequestration evaluation, and prepared a solar facility O&M plan and a decommissioning plan. But again, that's preliminary plan level work, so it's submitted, you have it, but we can wait till preliminary plan to go over those if you'd like. So that's an overview of the design. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have a few.
Okay.
So I looked at your decommissioning estimate. I looked at your decommissioning estimate, and I have to totally disagree that you're gonna make $60,000 when you disassemble this thing. So I would definitely take another look at that, because just the fact that you are indicating or estimating you're gonna get $5 per panel in recycling. I'd like to know where you're recycling these, because last time I looked, it was, people wanted us to pay them 15 to 20 to get rid of them, so I would definitely take a look at this, because I just don't see how, you know, you're trying to get away or trying to ask to not have to post a decommissioning bond, and I don't think that that is even a discussion we can really be having based on this. So that was one thing. In our notes, there's the requirement for underground, and I understand from your equipment to your riser pole, it can be underground.
Right.
So the grid only needs 3 poles. They don't need 13 poles coming down that driveway. So you can get from your pad out closer to the street, let grid put 3 poles in your riser pole, and you can't see, there's nothing that can really be done about that. You can't say to us, oh, the grid requires it to be overhead, because you can still get from your equipment to your pole underground.
Yeah, so, we can see it on, sorry, this is too much. So this, so that is the equipment pad, if you can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Down, right there. That is the first pole to the right. So that is the first pole, so it is underground to the first pole.
Yeah, but what I'm
National
saying
Grid-
is that first pole can be
No, I
4 poles off of the street.
I understand what you're saying. National Grid wants their pole, those poles that you're talking about that are normally right off the street, National Grid wants them on the same lot as the array. So these poles that you're seeing on the site, those are the poles that you would normally see, that you're talking about, right off the street. So that's what National Grid's requiring. The original concept, I think when I came in front of you in 2019 or whatever, that first original concept was just that. Had those poles up near the street, and then, I don't remember if it's underground the rest of the way or not, but those poles were near the street, and National Grid actually had us move them to this site.
Why? They're inside your fence, so they have no access to their equipment unless they talk to you guys to get access to it?
They are, no, they're outside the fence.
Yeah, with the fence being moved.
Yeah, because the fence is on, the fence is on the other side of the road. They wanted, and I wasn't involved directly in these conversations, but my understanding is that National Grid wanted the poles with the equipment to be on the same lot as the array, and the rest is access, so. And we can provide, I'm sure by preliminary, we'll have, National Grid's still working on that. That's why we permitted the road separate, so that Grid could come in and do their design. So by prelim, hopefully we'll have something from Grid that we can give to you, so you're not taken my word for it. But that's why it is that way.
All right, and then one other thing was with, I know, you know, it was done at a suggestion by the planning board, but along the northern property line, would you entertain putting any type of landscape berm there? Just, you've got the cut the big stuff down, basically, cut the shade trees down and not have to grub it, not have to do anything, but you could probably stockpile some of your boulders and, you know, cover it with mulch or whatever, just to build some kind of berm that, for the house that's on that lot, would minimize their visibility to the backside of that solar farm.
So we wouldn't actually be cutting any shade trees down, so those trees, those big trees that are on that north side would stay. Because there's no shade trees to the north.
So why are there two LODs? I didn't get that. You know, you have a LOD right at the backside of the solar panels, like 10 feet off, and then there's another LOD. So I was under the impression you were cutting, just, you know, taking the big stuff down behind it. I know you really don't need to.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the LODs are straight from the property line, but that tree line, that squiggly line, that's a tree line, so that's the edge of the shade tree cutting.
So you're not cutting any
So
further
we wouldn't
than
cut that. That's that 50-foot buffer. So anything within that 50-foot buffer stays.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'd hate to cut down trees too.
No, I just, like I said, I
Yeah.
didn't know why there's two LODs.
Right, yeah.
To
No,
me,
that-
you're
that's
doing something within that area,
Right.
so. That's it for me.
I just have one question. I just have one question before we open up the public hearing. We had talked, and you have made considerable changes to the array itself. We had talked about, you know, wildlife corridors and stuff. Now, obviously, this is a somewhat smaller array, and the fenced area is significantly smaller. Doing a little math, though, I mean, it's still 6 acres, which is roughly a 520 by 520 foot square. If you did that, it comes out to about 6 acres. And I'm just wondering if 520 feet is still too long to be unbroken, you know, for the migration of the larger animals that can't get under the fence. And whether it makes sense to have probably just one corridor. I mean, we've dealt with bigger arrays that, you know, they need to have multiple corridors, but have you looked into doing that at all?
We wouldn't be able to do a corridor. We did look at, and I don't have it with me because I wasn't planning on doing it, but that is addressed in the environmental impact statement, wildlife migration. So we can discuss that in more detail. It's in your materials. We prepared it in January, so I haven't looked at it in a while. But yeah, that is something that the biologist had looked at and does address in that document.
Okay.
So yeah, originally the fence was a lot larger, right? Covered a much bigger area. But now
Right.
that it's all short. And honestly, if we had a corridor with the original one, it probably would have been near where this is anyway, right? So you can almost think this is the other half of what would have been if we had a corridor.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of
Right.
the others we had. I don't believe they have that large and uninterrupted space, but that's, okay, that's fine. So if there's nothing else, we should open up the public
One more
information.
thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you had any discussions about having to do a turtle sweep? Being near wetlands, it seems to me that this is becoming more of a prevalence of sweeping for turtles before you start clearing. I know Rhode Island doesn't really have these regulations yet. However, DEP in Massachusetts has a pretty detailed procedure for it.
Right.
I think that it's probably going to become more and more prevalent in Rhode Island in the next year. So something that I think you may want to think about doing, just as a good citizen.
Right, yeah, we can get to that. Yeah, we have projects in Massachusetts with that. We are not even close to the wetland on these, so, and we're outside of the natural heritage area. So, I mean,
I know there's no endanger,
Yeah.
and, you know, but
Right.
just something to think about.
Yeah, we can keep that in mind, certainly.
Mr. Porter?
There was one note that confused me at the southerly portion, that there's a 12-foot gate at the bottom. Could you explain why there's a 12-foot gate there? It's called out as a 12-foot gate at an existing trail, so that just confused me.
Yeah, can you go to C4? That one right there. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is the gate that you're talking about. There's an existing trail that comes through here, and then we're adding a road that comes up through here to access this basin, and this is to this basin. So that gate is access to those two basins for maintenance.
Okay.
This site's tough to get around with all the boulders and steep slopes. So it worked out nicely that there's an existing trail there. And so what we did is we worked these into the existing landscape so that we can get access to it with minimal disturbance.
Okay. And then my other question, you list your area of disturbance as, or the total area for this project is gonna be disturbing 13 acres. And then we have the solar array on the 5.5. So I'm just, the area of disturbance is concerning to me for, we're basically doubling the size of this, what the array footprint's going to be. I understand that we have to cut down some trees for shading and whatnot, but it just seems excessive to basically double the size of this project when you only have to be 100, 150 feet away from the array for shading. So I didn't know if you could provide any clarification on that.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd say less, given the slopes, in some cases, much less than 150 feet. Because the trees will, the trees will be
Yeah,
down
it slopes
slopes.
down.
So.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so the reason the limits of disturbance, that's a really good question, is so much larger and really larger than you would normally see compared to the size of it, is partially because of the basins, right? So the limits of disturbance includes the stormwater basins. So we can't push those any closer. Those are where they have to be to catch the stormwater. It also includes the road, right? So that road's, you know, it's a long road up all the way to Iron Mine Hill Road. So that's mostly why that LOD is so much larger than the fence. It's those areas. It's not really shade trees. Shade trees, you know, if you look, as a good example is the northwestern portion, right? It's only 50 feet of clearing for the shade trees there, right? And then even down on the southern, you know, the southwestern portion there, we have a little kind of island right here, where we're leaving those trees in place, right? So even though the limits of disturbance encompasses the whole thing, there's trees within it that aren't being cut down, because those aren't shade trees, but we have to get in behind it to put in the stormwater basins. So it's a little, it's not that 13 acres of trees are getting cut down necessarily.
I know we probably, if I recall correctly, we talked a little bit at length at your first hearing about the agreement for an easement between the two properties. Has there been any progress with that? Has there been a situation where that's been approved by both parties for such an easement or anything that's been recorded at this time?
I'm gonna have to defer to Tom. Oh. Oh, hey, how's it going?
Well, for a lease agreement, that's fine for the 20 to 30 years for the life of the project, but if it goes beyond that, or you sell your property, is that gonna be part of the purchase and sales and whatnot?
So the lease agreement is for the life of the project, it's a 4-year lease.
Okay.
But I would say that yes, if there was a sale, that would go with that, go with the sale of the property.
Yeah, it just has to be specified that it's transferable, yeah. Okay.
I'll probably have this question answered at the next round, but do you have a cut and fill percentage? Because it looked like you were going over some slopes that were greater than 15% in some areas, based on your plans here. Do you have an idea of the cut and fill, how that's going to be laying out?
I don't have specific percentages, but there's not, we're minimizing grading, so this is actually the grading plan. So the vast majority of the grading is for the stormwater basins. Within the array itself, there's no massive grading. The grading that you see is along the existing trails, and that's filling those in, so they can be loamed and seeded. And then outside of that, grading is the road, just putting in the road. So the racking can handle slopes up to 20% east-west, so
Okay.
it can fit into the topography.
All right, ultimately, what I'm getting at is we've had concerns in the past about blasting with ledge. You know, I've read that there's some ledge in here, but it's likely now outside of the limits of this project, so I would just also make sure that we avoid any type of blasting or anything like that.
Right, yeah, no blasting is anticipated.
Okay.
The racking, it hasn't been selected yet, but typically the racking can, they just drill right into it.
So I'll be looking for a motion to open up the public informational meeting.
So moved.
You have a second? Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the public informational meeting is open at 8:07. Anybody wishing to speak? Please come up to the podium, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Donald Croto. I own all the abutting property to the right, to the, well, depending on how you look at it.
Excuse me, sir, could you state your address, please?
752 Iron Mine Hill Road, and that's another issue. It was put in the letter as 0 to 80. And I talked to a few people, they had no clue, and they would have been here otherwise.
No, but it was 850, because it said 0 and 80. And I called the town hall 3 times, I believe I spoke with you, and you said you made a change on the website. Nobody got a second letter after that.
So,
Nobody knew this meeting was happening.
They wouldn't have spoken with. Mr. Carrillo, could you maybe address that?
Mr. Chairman, notice was sent to the abutters. The address on the notice was incorrect. The address posted on the Secretary of State website and all other documentation, the address was correct.
Right.
Someone did reach out to the department, it was explained to them. It was also explained to the applicant that there was an issue with the address, and they chose to proceed at their own risk in case anyone files an appeal. The notice requirement has been met, and it has been properly posted and noticed.
Did you say that someone from the planning department or from the town notified the additional people that did not receive it because of the?
No, everyone who was required to receive notice received notice. The issue was that the address of the property on the notice was incorrect.
It was erroneous. So my husband was curious, and he went to 80 or 85 Iron Mine Hill Road, but on the opposite direction of the road, not next to our house.
there's no 80.
There's no 80, it was 850.
Oh, I can understand.
So
Okay.
everybody should have received another letter.
Exactly, because,
Yes, correction was made on the website, but nobody got a letter.
and that was a day later than it was stated on the,
Right.
on the.
So, and that's all I'm trying to get at, is that if, what I'm hearing is a lot of people didn't get notified.
No,
Oh, no?
Mr. Chairman, everyone was notified.
Improperly
notice that the-
notified.
Erroneous information.
The notice that they received had the wrong address on it. It had the correct plat and lot, all of the other information was correct. The notice
I got
posted on the Secretary of State website was correct.
So it was, so the information they received, like, sent them to the wrong area?
For the,
or-
the address
Yeah.
listing the
Gotcha.
property was,
Okay. Yeah, that's a, Mr., Thank you. Mr. Solicitor, maybe it's something you could weigh in on?
I think the board should proceed with the hearing, take the information, and if there's any question, the applicant, we can continue the hearing, and additional notice could go out as a safety precaution. But the applicant is operating at his or her own risk here in the event of appeal. The people that are here, as you know, under the law, when you're here, you don't have any right to appeal based upon insufficient notice. And they don't have any standing, in all due respect, for other people. So
Right.
there's two issues here. The people that are here should be heard and proceed. The applicant has to decide whether he wants to proceed, and then finally, the board has to decide whether they want to continue it and and tell the applicant to send out additional notice.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
So I think we continue to proceed.
Yep.
I think we continue to proceed.
Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification. All right. Yep.
And just to let you know how nobody knew, there's a guy that walks by our house often, and this past Sunday, he was walking by, and I stopped him. And I says, did you get a notice? Oh, yeah, I got a notice. He says, I have no idea where that is. I says, it's across the street from your house. He says, 850? I said, yes. That was his grandfather's property that they bought from.
Right.
He didn't even have a clue that that was there.
Okay.
That was the
So-
property.
Understood, and as Mr. Igliozzi said, we're going to move forward. Obviously, you're here, and anyone else wants to speak?
I tell you, he was very upset,
Yeah,
because he said,
I no doubt, but.
he would have been here, but he had,
we have a-
unfortunately, had to babysit, so he couldn't.
And there'll be other forums which he will be properly notified, that's guaranteed, and therefore will be able to attend. Okay, so this is master plan, so this is just the beginning, so, all right. But what other questions do you have about the project?
Well, and this is, of course, this is the second second attempt to put a solar farm on that property. It was 1 year ago from, I actually still have the card, Pine Gate Renewables tried putting a solar farm there years ago. And it didn't go through for some reason. I don't know exactly what happened, but it didn't go through.
Okay, well, yeah, I with all due respect, I mean, a past project from different developer, or whatever, doesn't really impact how we look at this, the merits of this project. Okay, so no doubt this one's being done differently, I would say. But like I said, we want to review, we want to hear any concerns about what it's being done, the impact it has, et cetera. And so that's what I was wondering what you had for that.
Let's see. Of course, personally, we've had 3 companies approach us to sell our property to put a solar farm on, and told them no way, and 2 of them came back a second time. Anyway,
Excuse me.
yeah, our property borders 800 feet
There you go.
of the left side of that property of where they want to put their solar farm. And that's all ledge, and it's all rock up all through there. I'll show you pictures of it. I took a bunch of them today, and I also saw that they did a lot of surveying with stakes are all, I have no clue where, I've had that surveyed twice, same, and they got stakes all over the place. So there's gonna be a big issue with the boundaries. I can see that coming.
You're saying the question of where the boundaries are truly located?
Yeah, I know where they, I've lived up there over 40 years on that property, so I know every inch of it.
Right.
And I know where there are granite markers, and I had it surveyed, giving them, and I don't know where they're putting their markers, because it's nowhere near mine.
Right. This might be a question for the engineer. Has there been, I imagine there's been a survey done to identify that? And do we have, is that information all in the? Okay, so I think that'd be something to look at in good detail.
Yeah. Like I said, there's my big concerns also, again, there's a lot of ledge up there, and there's gonna be some underground, so potentially they could hit, there's ledge all over up there. They, we all have wells. Could, if they have to do any blasting, could definitely affect it. When they clear cut the 500 acres across the street to put that huge, biggest solar farm in Rhode Island, I got a crack in my gunite pool. I got a gunite pool. I got a crack in the bottom of the pool, and I also have a leak in my stone foundation in my house. After 40 years we've been there, we never had an issue, and that blasting wasn't even anywhere near what this potentially could be. Again, it's all ledge up through there, and, or monster rocks.
All right.
Like I said, if you want to see a picture of what's over there, it's unbelievable, and that, especially up in that area. And then impact on the wildlife. I'll tell you right now, clear cutting all that property across, all the wildlife are all on our side of the road now. We used to have 2, 3, maximum 4 deer. We'd flip out the lights on the backyard, we'd see. You can ask my wife now, we're seeing 8, 10 more. Because they're getting, again, now they're packing all these deers onto this side of the iron mine. There's gonna be a lot of deer dying from starvation because they're not gonna have enough food for them. And that's a huge problem. And also now with this, the neighbor across the street, one house down, who's putting in he looks like he's putting in a huge development over there. He's cutting roads in, and he's gonna be clearing another big area. So again, they're gonna be displacing more wildlife. I don't know, it's just getting, I think, out of hand. And has the city of Woonsocket been notified about this? Because they're in a butter, and there's a brook that runs through the woods out there. Will it impact that at all? Because that goes right into the reservoir.
Okay.
Again, I've been up there 40 years, so I know everything going on around, and I don't like this at all.
Okay.
Do you want to see a picture of one, just one? I got a whole bunch of them if you want to see, but I'll show you one picture if you just want to see.
Yeah.
Be my guessing, take a come up, I'll show you. It's just unbelievable.
Yep. Well, I will say from this, Mr. Porter just shared a good idea. We sometimes do site walks for this project. This is probably one, because we don't know the property the way you do.
Yeah, but have to come to our property to observe it.
Yeah, and we would walk this actual property and see where the fence is gonna go, see where the, and see the lay of the land.
And then this thing on this, there would be 100 foot of space between, 100 foot buffer.
Yep.
So that means they
Yes.
wouldn't cut any trees within 100 feet of my boundaries?
Pardon me?
It's 100 feet from the property line, it's 50 feet of woods that wouldn't be cut.
It's 50 feet, yeah, it's 50 feet of wood, but from the property line.
So you're gonna, we go back there all the time, we're gonna see that, all that back there. Nothing.
Would you mind, can you show, for at least if I'm the only one who doesn't get it, where on this drawing is your property?
My property runs all the way here, actually, even.
Oh, okay, so the,
All on his property too.
so the east side.
My property here, and another 222 his property that I bought also.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Okay.
Any questions for me?
I just have one. You said you had your property surveyed recently? Or
Probably a few years now.
what I might,
It's been done a couple times, And that property, when the other company looked at it, had it surveyed, and their stakes were right on mine. These are not even close.
What, just for comparison purposes, what I might request is that you provide those plans to our town planner so that they can be submitted through and reviewed appropriately.
I have the plans from the town showing all the property lines and stuff.
Okay.
I got that years ago, because when I bought the property, I wanted to know where my
Sure.
everything was.
To the planning office?
Next week, as soon as possible.
If you have them, as soon as you can make a copy, that'd be helpful. Sir, did you want this back?
You
No.
can
Okay,
keep
thank
it.
you.
We're
All right.
good.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the project? Mrs. Walensky?
Good evening. My name's Paul Swolensky, 19 Borget Court, Town of North Smithfield. I have a concern, this is the first meeting that I've attended about this. I have a concern about the integrity of our roadways. Now, we heard 3 detention areas are going to be created, creation of access roads. I understand from the testimony tonight that the solar panels can handle up to 15 to 20% slope.
Yep.
So my question to the developer will be, is it going to be a balanced site? Because I would have grave concerns about materials being hauled over town roads.
We don't we require that all material be used on the site?
It's required to be a balanced site?
That's a requirement.
Okay, that answers my questions. Things
Okay.
have changed since I sat where you sit.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
we-
you, appreciate it.
No, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, look for a motion.
Make a motion to close the
Information.
informational hearing at this time.
Okay.
But before I do, if we're going to be considering continuing to this, to a date certain, we should likely
We should not
close
close
it and
No, no, we should
continue
continue
it to a date certain, so that the proper notification can go out.
Okay, yes, good point.
Chairman, may I just, again, I would refer to the planner to identify the clock period, and then
Yes.
we could talk to the applicant's attorney to see if we could agree to a date certain, and if he wants to, or willing to provide this additional secondary notice with the proper address on it. Or
Okay.
just get- First thing is to see what kind of latitude we have based upon the clock.
Sure.
And then we
Okay.
can turn it over to the applicant's attorney to see what willingness they have to cooperate with us.
Good, you guys tell us where we are on the clock?
I don't know offhand. We did not certify complete or incomplete, but we did docket it for a hearing, so the assumption is that the application is complete, so I believe the clock will start ticking at the time of the notice. I think that's more than sufficient time.
Oh,
It's only 90 days now.
It's 90 days.
right, minus the notice, we're probably looking at 80 or so
The
left.
application received in January, so
Oh,
so, but as far as the notice, we did not certify, we did not issue a certificate of completeness, but we did docket it for a hearing, so at that point it's complete. So I would say upon the docketing of the notice is when the clock would start.
and do you know what day that was?
It would have, I can,
About a week ago?
When did you folks receive notice?
it would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Maybe a month ago. I don't have my glasses here. Does it say April? I spoke the first time to Bernie April 5th. So I must have
Right,
gotten
this
it a
is-
week prior to that,
2 weeks ago.
unless there's another
No,
date
that's,
there.
yeah.
I spoke to her, and then when she did not call me back, she said she was gonna call me one
That-
way or the
that's
other.
all right.
2 days later, I called the other
Oh.
number.
All right, documents were posted on the website on Monday, April 4th.
But it's not there on the 4th, was there 2 days later when we spoke. When I called the second time, then they said,
Okay.
after I spoke to her, was not there Monday night.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the attorney's name, I'm not familiar with it.
Absolutely.
Because my other question would be, what's our May agenda looking like as well, to make sure that we can accommodate for a date certain, or if we need to have a special meeting to address this?
From what he said, it sounds like we have,
We have two pending applications for May, similar to this evening.
but it sounds like we have about 75 days or so. Right. Right. So, should we continue the public hearing and then, because it's gonna be a while before we're ready to, we have kind of a catch-22. We don't know if we're gonna continue it. I think we're going to. So why don't we just continue there's too many, I mean, the people being pissed off, so just hold another meeting, that's all. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collado spoke with his clients, and he's agreed both, just out of technical concerns, that the clock is stopped pending a continuation to a date certain. I believe we're well within 90 days, but for this period, but he is asking, in exchange for that, to be on a May agenda. So either a special meeting or the May agenda, and I think that's a reasonable request, so that he's not getting pushed back, 60 days. So you would continue by, first of all, you would continue it to a date certain.
Yep.
Keep the public informational meeting open and continue it to a date certain, and he'll send out additional letters. I don't know if the town does it, or does the applicant do it?
Applicant.
The applicant does it.
Okay.
Okay, so at this time, I would like to make a motion that we continue the informational hearing and the application review to a date certain of May 12th of 2022.
Okay. We have a second? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes.
And just by agreement with the applicant, the 90-day clock is stopped during this continuance.
Correct.
Not eliminated, just stopped for this continuance.
Right. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, let's just make sure that the minutes reflect that agreement, so you can have record of it.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So there will be another hearing on May 12th.
Survey.
Excellent. That'd be great, yeah, me too.
Okay.
Right, all right.
I gotta keep all my notes.
I know. So with that,
Is there any adjournment? Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
And we have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned at